You can enjoy at Northern California's premier casino resort. Cache Creek is the place to play a hot hand on our world-class gaming floor, indulge at our luxurious spa, or catch a live performance from your favorite acts. It's all here, just a short drive away. This is your time to cash in at Cache Creek Casino Resort, official sponsor of your Golden State Warriors.
Searching for your next set of wheels? Get pre-qualified at CarMax and see your personalized monthly payment for any of our cars with no impact to your credit score. Because CarMax has made it as easy as a Sunday drive to get your financing options with the shopping experience tailored to you, so you can get the car that's right for you and right for your budget. Get started at CarMax.com and compare your options in just a few easy clicks. See CarMax.com for details. CarMax, that's car buying reimagined.
What makes a buzzer beater so great? The energy, the spontaneity, the choice to just go for it. Last-second flight changes aren't so different. Whether it's pulling an all-nighter, checking off a bucket list item, or extending your trip for some R&R. At United, we think last-second calls are yours to make. That's why we don't charge change fees, ever. This is what an airline looks like when good leads the way. United is proud to be the official airline of the Golden State Warriors. Exceptions apply for certain international flights. Forever applies to flights within the U.S. and between the U.S. and Mexico or the Caribbean.
Hey, Stephen Curry, it's game day, and you know what that means.
That you're going to talk like an announcer all day long?
Yes, and fans get 10% cash back in arena or online at Warriors Shop by using Rakuten.
That is pretty exciting.
Cash back on Warriors gear is exciting, Stephen Curry.
I think they know it's me.
Good point. We just need to tell them the website.
Rakuten.com/Warriors. RAKUTEN.com/Warriors.
Warriors fans, it's time to dub the vote for the best all-star ensemble on the California coast. Captain Clay can bring the wave. The heartbeat, Dre, keeps this band jamming. You know the party will have a splash. If Poole is invited, Wiggins will bring that smooth sense of style. Loon can conduct the tunes. And don't forget the reigning all-star most valuable performer, Stephen Curry. Dub the vote presented by Google Cloud. Vote for your favorites at warriors.com/dubthevote.
You've been listening to the Golden State Warriors Audio Network.
Presented by United Airlines.
This has been a presentation of Odyssey Sports. For even more coverage of your team, download the free Odyssey app and listen to your favorite stations, shows, and podcasts.
That's a wrap.
Yo, that's a wrap. It was an amazing experience. Hope everybody enjoyed it. Hope they got some laughs, some good entertainment.
This is Warriors Wrap Up on 95.7 The Game.
Back to Jerome, 5 to shoot, off the screen. Jerome just heaves up a three. A prayer was answered for Jerome. He knocked it down. 117-110. He's got now a total of 22 points.
Yeah, big night from Ty Jerome, and the Warriors needed it, including that dagger three to put them up by 7 in the closing minutes as the Warriors go on to win tonight. That's right. 120-114 is the final as we welcome you inside Warriors Wrap-Up here on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson with you, 888-957-9570. What a difference a night makes and what a difference 10 nights make for the Golden State Warriors as they wind up getting a win on the road without Steph Curry, without Klay Thompson, without Draymond Green, and without Andrew Wiggins. They do it against an Eastern Conference opponent and against a 500 opponent on the road for the first time this season. And it makes now for a 3-2 road trip as the Warriors get big-time contributions from so many, starting with Jordan Poole, Ty Jerome, who was in the starting lineup, and then that starting backcourt along with Jordan Poole. Dante DiVincenzo doing his thing as he has when he's been thrust into the starting lineup with the Warriors shorthanded. And they got a lift from Jonathan Kuminga and JaMychal Green coming back off of injuries, with the Kuminga playing for the first time since the end of that homestand back in the first week of January, and JaMychal Green playing for the first time since the Warriors were able to get a win in Toronto back on December the 18th. And the Warriors needed it without the headliners. And I think there is some irony in the fact that the Warriors beat a good team on the road, and they do it when the opponent isn't necessarily motivated by facing the Warriors' core of stars, as they have been in so many different games over the course of this season. But that's the way it goes. That's why you play the games in today's NBA. The Warriors have, and a big part of their downfall to this point this season has been the fact that they, on certain nights, have lacked motivation going up against teams that are thrilled and energized by the fact that they're playing the defending champions and really want to take it to them on a night-in, night-out basis. And tonight it was kind of flipped a little bit. Reminded me of the game 10 nights ago at home, the finale to the 8-game homestand, where the Phoenix Suns came in and got the Warriors down 27 with Mikal Bridges and the back end of their roster. It felt like tonight was a flip-the-script night for that game, where the Warriors were getting healthy and had a lot of their guys back, but just didn't play forcefully enough, weren't into it, weren't motivated. And when you've got a team full of players that are looking for opportunities to play, a couple of injured guys that hadn't played in a couple of weeks or a month in the case of JaMychal Green, others who are going to get enhanced opportunities. And Steve Kerr's talked a lot about this over the course of the year and the natural letdown that he believes exists for a team facing another team without a bunch of their headlining players. And so sometimes that can induce a low-level game from your opponent, and the Warriors benefited from that tonight. They got off to a 33-28 lead. They were able to knock down 14 threes in the first half and end up hitting 9 more in the second half. 23 of 43 for the Warriors from three-point range in this game. 53.5% for the Dubs. And that's the kind of night you need to have if you're going to pull off an upset at the level that the Warriors were able to pull off this upset. And now it just changes the trajectory, frankly, of the whole trip. One game doesn't flip a season or change the script of what this team still has to do down the stretch, but being 23-23 heading back home where the Warriors have played much better, getting healthier now with Andrew Wiggins back in the fold and Steph Curry now back in the fold over the last handful of games, going back to the game right before the road trip, the Warriors really are in a position again now to make a run. And I think tonight, as silly as it may sound, winning this game tonight validates the good effort that they played with last night, even in losing in Boston. I was frustrated last night and even on Warriors Live, and spoke to the point that at some point you have to win some games. Like you can't just only be motivated against the good teams, still not win half the time, and keep dipping your record below 500 and say that everything's fine and that you're going to get on a roll and you've got champion's blood and you know when it's time to turn it on and you'll turn it on when it's time to turn it on. You got to get through the regular season playing well enough to where you still have a shot to make that run. And that's where, tonight, is it translatable with a lot of these role players and two-way players and young players getting more opportunities? Does it translate into smaller roles in the regular rotation when the Warriors have everybody? Probably not, as we've seen, but it doesn't matter because this team is made up of the 14 players on full contracts and the 2 players on two-way contracts, and they're all a part of it, and they all have opportunities to make contributions. And, tonight was a night where, Jordan Poole led the way in that, main guard, lead guard, ball handler way that he has had to take on with Stephen Curry not in the lineup, and he plays big and goes for 32 and doesn't just settle for the 3. Turned it over 5 times, but that's what a primary ball handler is going to do from time to time. And so you look at it, and Jordan Poole able to do his thing. Ty Jerome gets an opportunity. And Ty Jerome is able to pour in 41 minutes, 22 points. The Warriors needed it. Floaters early, the three-pointers late. Jonathan Kuminga, his athleticism and energy, welcome in 27 minutes, coming back and playing for the first time in a long time. And then you look at a guy like Kevon Looney, who I think exemplifies what the Warriors are all about right now. And I mentioned this via Twitter before the game, just the fact that the respect level that you've got to have for a guy like Kevon Looney to basically be pulled from the starting lineup in what has to be the most fun game that you'll play at any point in the season last night, going into the game against the Celtics, and have Steve Kerr tap him on the shoulder and say, yeah, I'm going with JP in the starting lineup, and then be able to contribute last night. But then tonight, hey, Loon, you're back in there, but we want you to try to hold together the back end of the roster against a pretty good team on the road and make the most of it. And it's just professionalism at the highest level. And I think you got to have a lot of respect for a guy like Kevon Looney as being one of the glue guys that's kind of keeping this whole thing together at this point, at least trying to. And the Warriors, came out with an energetic, first quarter. You look at Looney's line, plus 10, 17 rebounds, just helping to hold things down. And the Warriors come out energetic, set a good tone, had shots falling, and able to get the lead, withstand in the second quarter when it looked like the Cavs were just kind of hanging around and maybe going to make their run. And then the Warriors pushed the thing up to 20 in the third quarter, come out right out of the gate, third quarter, and really tell the Cavaliers that for tonight, even though they were hitting shot after shot, you're going to have to play at a pretty high level to beat us. And the Warriors, I think, set a tone to which you knew the run was coming at some point from Cleveland, but you also thought, at least I did once they got up 20, that they were probably going to have enough, even if it was a good run by the Warriors, to be able to hang on down the stretch. And that's exactly what they did with enough defensive plays down the stretch in the game, enough shot making, enough playmaking down the stretch in the game to ultimately win this one by the 120 to 114 count. So 888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. Warriors wrap up here on 95.7 The Game. John Dickinson with you, 415 on the Xfinity Mobile text line here. JD, Jermichael Green played well tonight. Please tell me the team is not going to send James Wiseman back to Santa Cruz. I have no idea what they're going to do with James Wiseman. Wiseman's still not back at practice at this point. He's been out for 3 weeks. And, I find it hard to believe, and I hate to skew negative on a night that really is positive for the Warriors when there's been a lot of frustration. I know about the way the game was played 24 hours ago in Boston, about the fact that the Warriors were resting players. I know fans get frustrated with that. I got frustrated with that. I don't love a team that's under 500 and claiming that everything's fine and then resting players when you need wins. I was the first to not be critical of it necessarily, but just admit and acknowledge the fact that it's not the best look. But when you're able to win games shorthanded and give the regulars a rest and the young players can come in and play at a high level, and that's a great trip. And it validates the process, frankly, of resting those players in certain situations. So I think whether you disagree with it, whether you understand it, the Warriors are going to keep doing it, as Steve Kerr explained before the ball game. But when you can win, it's a massive win in the standings for the Warriors tonight. It also validates, again, the practice of resting guys, which I think is pretty important if this team is going to make a run with the rest of these guys coming back here down the stretch and them getting home. It doesn't flip anything, but it does help big in the standings. It puts the Warriors back at 500, prevents them from being 2 under. 2 under, as we talked about in the pregame show, might have put them on the outside looking into the play-in tournament at the close of business tonight. 500 now, depending upon what happens with Utah tonight, who is losing at home to the Nets. Warriors could be right back in 6th at the close of business tonight. So that is a big win, regardless of how you shake it out for the Warriors winning in Cleveland. 888-957-9570. That's where Al in Alameda checks in tonight here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Al?
Hello.
What's going on, man?
How you doing, John? Good evening.
Good, man.
Hey, you just mentioned about the starters. Okay, that's one of my topics. I don't know what's up with just resting the starters here and we end up winning without them. Okay, and I just want to bring it up. My brother-in-law from Cleveland, they got tickets for kids, and they don't get to see neither of those players, and that's messed up. I'm not going to beat up Steve Kerr on that. I should call him Steve Pavlovich. That's twice now. He did that, and nobody started. So, but we won. I like that. Also, we win with the five starter on the bench. Okay, and we're playing against 10 games over 500, and then we win and we lose on the starters, teams that are even under 500. I don't get that. Come on, what is up with that? Do we have legs because the young bloods out there running back and forth? Or just Curry, Clay, and Green are just over the heels now, or what? So, also, as much as I love seeing Jordan Poole score, but his turnover is kind of amazing there. It's kind of iffy. It's going to cost us some games, okay? So that's all I'd like to say. Thank you for taking my call.
All right, you got it, Al. Look, this is a league full of teams on a nightly basis that look at their opponent and don't respect their opponent and don't come out and play hard and get beat. I can go through the NBA schedule every single night, and there will usually be at least two on most nights, if there's a good chunk of games, where you can point out and go, oh, that team played down, that team didn't bring it, that team didn't show up, that was a low-effort performance. It's just the state of the league right now. It's just reality. And just as the Warriors looked at the Suns 10 nights ago at Chase, and as they got healthier, saw a team that was playing with Mikal Bridges and players 7 through 15 or 8 through 15 on their roster and kind of didn't show up against them and it bit them in the ass. That's what it happened to Cleveland tonight. Doesn't take anything away from the Warriors and the fact that they made a bunch of shots and they played their asses off, played hard, played with a purpose, played with an energy. But the fact of the matter is the Cavs did overlook them tonight. And that happens. But again, you got to make sure that you're taking advantage of that more often than other teams are taking advantage of it when you do it. And I think that's where the Warriors have gotten a little bit caught in the wash this year, is they've won a lot of games where both teams have been motivated or they've been motivated, but there's been more games where the opposition's motivated, especially on the road, to beat them as defending champions than they are to win a game in October or November or December or January on the road against anybody in the slog of, hey, nothing really matters until April, May, and June. So tonight gets one back on that front for the Warriors. As far as Jordan Poole's turnovers, look, we talked about it a lot. He's still learning. He's still learning. He's not a number one option. He's not an all-star. He's not a superstar. He's learning at this point to be an effective, semi-dominant sixth man who's also going to start a lot of games because Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are going to miss some games. And he's learning from it. And you saw Steve Kerr, get furious with Jordan Poole tonight, ticked that he got called for a delay of game as he argued with the official, kind of snapped at him. And, Steve Kerr, I think, is, enough is enough. And he's got to pick his spots with Poole as a young player. But Steve Kerr, will play it for you coming up here on 95.7 The Game, also really set the tone and made a point to say that Poole's played great. Poole's played great the last two nights. The Warriors are not in position to win if Jordan Poole doesn't play as well as he did last night in Boston and if he doesn't pour in 32 tonight. Like, Jordan Poole has helped this team win more games over the course of the last month than he's helped them lose over the course of the last month, especially with all the players that have been out. So you got to give credit where credit is due. The Warriors should be in a lot worse shape if they didn't have Jordan Poole for as shorthanded as they've been. Big win for the Warriors tonight. 888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. 120 to 114 is the final. So the Warriors, ownage is ownage, right? the Warriors with ownage over the Cavaliers, who in the regular season, the Warriors have not lost to the Cavaliers since Christmas of 2016. So that goes all the way back to the first time the Warriors played the Cavs with Kevin Durant, after Durant came over from Oklahoma City, and the Cavs were able to beat the Warriors, one time in the finals, but then after that, the Warriors swept the 18 finals. So it goes back to, if you include the postseason, Game 5 of the 17 finals when the Warriors won the title, and then they haven't lost to them since. That game where they were up 3-0 in the 2017 finals, and that on display with the Warriors able to go in there and win as shorthanded as they were tonight. So sometimes one jersey just owns another jersey, and I think that's the case for the Warriors against the Cavs, proven to be true to the greatest extent in this one tonight. Let's go to Ben in San Francisco next year on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, John. That's really interesting about the ownage of the Cavs. I had no idea about that. That's amazing. I wanted to talk about James Wiseman because, I really root for this kid. He seems like an amazing person, but he seems also like such a badly chosen draft pick. Didn't fit the system. Obviously, has all kinds of problems. And now, with the Warriors at a 500 record or so at this point in the season, they're not going to be able to get him off the bench because his plus-minus is too bad. So he's not really going to play this year, probably. What are they going to do with him? I'm wondering what you think.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the likelihood, or at least the potential for them to look at moving him in a trade is more and more likely at this point. And I think it's the reason, Ben, that you lay out. It's the fact that, and I've said it over the last week, he was starting to come around a little bit to where he was at least playable 4 to 6 minutes a game, or maybe 4 to 6 minutes a half. I was starting to come, but then as we've seen going back 2 years ago, there were a couple of stretches in that season where he started to play and then he would get hurt. And as he was starting to be a little bit playable, he'd get hurt and then he'd wind up out of the rotation. And so, now I think this is similar to that. And then it would take him a month or two to work his way back into form or to get healthy. And a couple of times he didn't even get healthy enough. And so it's a situation where I'm with you. I don't think he is going to play much. I don't think he's going to play really at all down the stretch. And I think the Warriors are looking for not necessarily a traditional 5, but more of a stretch 4 type with some bulk. Somebody, and this player doesn't necessarily exist, but somebody that's almost a little bit of the combination, the perfect player. And I'm kidding as I say this, so don't take me too seriously here, but the perfect player is like a combination of Kuminga and Anthony Lamb, right? Shoots it like Anthony Lamb and defends and can be an athlete like Jonathan Kuminga. Those players are obviously not just anywhere in the NBA landscape and available to be traded for, but I think they're probably looking for that type of a player at this point. But I think with the money that Wiseman is making next year, the $12 million, and the luxury tax ramifications, and the fact that he just doesn't pencil to be a factor on this year's team, where Kuminga, I think, does have a role right now. We'll see how much in a playoff series, but Kuminga right now would be, I think, the 8th, and Lamb the 9th, if you're looking at who is available on this roster currently for the playoffs. But Wiseman, and I think even Moody, although Moody is still a guard wing, so you'd probably want to keep him around on this roster to a greater extent. But I think at this point, it is more and more likely the Warriors are going to have to look at what they could potentially get for him, but it's difficult to palate. And I get it. If you're in the Warriors organization, whether it's the owner or the GM or the scouting staff or whoever, I get that it's difficult to palate potentially trading James Wiseman for a rental or somebody whose contract is just going to go away. And also somebody that may, if it's a big man, not be a playoff caliber rotation type player. It just feels at that point almost as if you're giving him away, and that makes the number 2 overall pick feel all the more like it's a waste. And then you got to come to grips with it, or you got to get a hell of a good player back in return, somebody that's a clear-cut rotation player that helps you go on to win another championship. That also makes it a little bit more palatable. 888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Warriors wrap-up on 95.7 The Game. Big win for the Dubs, 120-114. Short-handed in Cleveland as they go 3-2 on the road trip. Pretty good, I would say. A 3-2 road trip has to look really good for the Warriors, considering the fact that they were 3-16 on the road overall as the trip started. First win versus a team above 500 on the road this season, and the Warriors get it done in Cleveland as they win this one. Big first quarter. The third quarter is really when they were able to turn it up, and the Warriors win this thing by 6, so they get back to 23-23, and now they're going to head home. Brooklyn on Sunday, Memphis on Wednesday, Toronto on Friday before the Warriors are going to be off next weekend, and then they go on the road, I think, to Oklahoma City and Houston, if memory serves. Oh, it's Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Denver, so that's actually a much, much tougher trip than Oklahoma City and Houston. But Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Denver, but a chance to get right at home. No Kevin Durant for the Nets in that one, and so a chance to continue to push forward. And I think tonight's win really it erases some of the bad vibes from last night's loss. You know, it's easier to say, hey, you competed against the best team in the league last night when you look up at the overall record and you end up going 3-2 in the trip. Ed and San Mateo next here on Warriors Wrap Up. What's going on, Ed?
Hi, not much, but the Warriors management and the coaches have a much higher opinion of Wiseman's potential than you do, and I would wait and see what happens for his ankle before you write him off as a trade bait. Also, and forgive me for being a little bit critical, but I heard your pregame show, and based on what you said then, I thought you should turn off the game. It wasn't worth listening to, but it proved to be a pretty good game.
It did, and that's why you got to play the game. And that's why you got to play the game, and that's why you got to listen to the game, and that's why you got to watch the game, because you never know what's going to happen. So I appreciate the phone call. I appreciate you calling me on that, Ed. As far as Wiseman goes, I don't know if they're going to trade him. I really don't, because it's, again, as I laid out, it's tough to palate. I think trading somebody that you spent the number 2 pick on, I strongly believe that he's not going to be a factor for this team this year. He may still wind up being on the team, and the Warriors may still continue to develop him, and he may wind up go on and have a nice career. I'm not writing off his career, but I think we are to the point where you can start to wonder about his impact for this season, because he's been out for so long, and it's taken him so long to be able to contribute at all once he's been healthy. As far as the game tonight and the pregame, yeah, I was frustrated tonight. There's no doubt. I was frustrated, and I think a lot of Warrior fans were frustrated with the fact that you don't always have the luxury of resting your stars when you're not winning enough games to keep your record at a certain level to where you're remaining legitimately competitive. And, you know, I think you could make the case, hey, the Warriors had a couple of days off on this trip. You know, Klay Thompson's not going to play. And again, they are big picture on it all the way. I laid out the reasons why the Warriors do it, but I do think it comes off as, at times, as a little bit arrogant when the Warriors do that. And they're not the only team that does it. I hate it when other teams do it. The Clippers do it. The Spurs, when they were good, do it. The Nets do it. I mean, all kinds of teams do it. The 76ers do it. The Lakers, when they were good, would do it with Anthony Davis and LeBron James from time to time. I don't love it, and I get why they do it. I think the league could schedule some of the games better, but it's, you know, all the more reason, and I think a lot of the frustration really comes from the fact that, it felt, I didn't like the tone last night of, hey, everything's fine, great loss, everything's fine. This team's on the come. They're figuring it out. And you look at the standings, and they're under 500, and with a good chance. And look, if Cleveland had showed up tonight, the Warriors may still have gotten beat. Take nothing away from them, but it is a two-way game tonight. And the Warriors found themselves, as I mentioned earlier, on the right side of another team kind of no-showing against them to a certain extent, where the Warriors had done that a little bit on the road, or at least not no-showed, but felt they could coast against some weaker teams, especially early in the season on the road, and just win the game late, and then they got bit in the rear end. But I'll own it. I'll own it, Ed. I will. I don't like the look of a team that just got beat and is trying to find themselves, and then you decide that you're going to rest everybody. I really don't. It's not my jam, but I understand and have explained why the Warriors do it. D and DC next here on Warriors Wrap-Up on 95.7 The Game. What's going on tonight, D?
JD, what's up, bro?
What's going on, man?
Hey, man, I usually agree with everything that you say, but your statement about Wiseman is a little off. Reason for that is because you just described the perfect replacement for Wiseman as a combination of J.K. and Lamb. But what you fail to realize is that Wiseman is exactly that combination. It's just a matter of how he's being deployed that is incorrect. At some point, you and the others on the radio need to start pointing the fingers at how this kid is being deployed. I understand that the health issues that he has to deal with are standing on the way. I understand that. But, to say that the kid is not going to be something special, or better yet, is not going to have an opportunity to play for the Warriors is not the way to go, man. I mean,
thanks, D. This season, I'm not saying his career's over. I'm not saying he's not going to be a good player. I'm not saying that he's not going to, eventually be a factor for the Warriors down the line. What I'm saying is, for this season, I think it's probably a wrap. I really do. And we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. As far as him being a combination of Wiseman and Kuminga, or a combination of Lamb and Kuminga, he's not a combination of, I'm talking about a wing player. James Wiseman is a center. He is a 5-man. Kuminga and Lamb looking for a 4-man. You're looking for a big 4-man that can shoot some threes and be an athlete and defend on the perimeter and get in and rebound. That's not James Wiseman. That's not James Wiseman at all. And look, I'm not writing him off for his career. You'd be foolish to do that. And again, I'm not even saying the Warriors are going to trade him, because I can understand where the Warriors would look around and look at trading a guy that they view has as much upside as he does for a rental player and feeling like, hey, I don't want to do that. That doesn't work. Like, I get it. Believe me, I get being uncomfortable with doing that. But you tell me when it's taken him months to get back into the fold at other times when he's missed time. He hasn't come back and been like, the Warriors are not thinking, oh, hey, Wiseman's coming back as they're fully healthy and with the rest of their rotation. Let's start finding some minutes for Wiseman. No, if anything, they're going to keep playing Lamb, and they're going to play Kuminga, and they're going to play JaMychal Green now some more, and Looney and Draymond are going to play, and they're going to go small. Kerr said he's going to keep starting Jordan Poole, which means Looney becomes a backup big man now, which means there's less time for Wiseman. So that's just reality, unfortunately. And so I get, some of the frustration, but, if this team has championship aspirations, he's probably not going to be a part of it. The window may be being missed right now by him not being around. Man, it's funny. James Wiseman is a polarizing figure. Warriors get their biggest win of the year in some fashion. First time they beat a good team on the road, and the Warriors do it without Steph and Clay and Draymond and Wiggins, and people are lighting up the phone lines tonight talking about James Wiseman. All right, let's pause for our station ID, and then we'll hear from Steve Kerr. 888-957-9570. If you want to join the conversation, we'll keep this thing rolling, but first we'll pause here on 95.7 The Game.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM in HD1 San Francisco. Always live on Twitch, YouTube, and the free Odyssey app.
All right, John Dickinson here, Warriors Wrap-Up. Warriors win at 120-114. big win for the Dubs. Contributions from Jordan Poole and Ty Jerome, Dante DiVincenzo, Jonathan Kuminga as well, JaMychal Green. A lot of big-time contributions for the Warriors in this one tonight. Even Patrick Baldwin knocked down a couple of threes and went for 7 points in his 9 minutes. He can shoot it a little bit, like what we saw tonight, really from everybody on the floor, with the exception of maybe Moses Moody, who just doesn't seem to have it offensively, but played some solid defense in stretches. There's a short stretch there where he did an all right job against Darius Garland. Really, everybody who played contributed for the Warriors in this one. All right, let's hear a little bit from Steve Kerr as he met with the media in Cleveland after the Warriors' victory.
Led by 20 points, I think, in the third quarter. Then it got down to a two-possession game late. Just kind of what happened, I guess, that led up to you guys letting your foot off the gas and getting it close.
I don't think we let our foot off the gas. I think we were just playing so well and shooting the ball so well to get that lead. And then they're a hell of a team. One of the best teams in the league and the number one defense in the league. So they brought the pressure and forced some turnovers. I think we had 14 of them in the second half. So they just got into us and started to knock down some shots themselves, and we kind of hung on for dear life down the stretch, but we got it done.
What's a win like this do for you guys?
I mean, it's just a night where a bunch of guys came in and played with confidence, played with force. Guys like Ty and JaMychal, Lamb, JP was fantastic. All these guys are JK welcoming him back, and all these guys are earning roles and fighting for roles. And so when you get a win like this, and everybody feels good about themselves in their own game, it gives you a little boost. And now we get to head home after a long trip. So great night.
Last game, we talked a lot about, you guys spoke a lot about not just being able to really slam the door shut on Celtics, and you guys were able to do that tonight. Completely different cast of characters, but what were the differences did you see tonight versus last night?
Well, we didn't exactly slam the door shut, but we closed it gently. So we got it done. We had some turnovers down the stretch, but we also made some big plays and got some big stops. I thought Loon was tremendous. I mean, 17 boards, against a great front line. Loon kind of controlled the paint. And then I mentioned JaMychal, for him to come back after a month and bring that type of force, knock down 3 threes. He got, I think, 8 rebounds in 16 minutes. So JaMychal played a huge role in it. So I just love the physicality and the force that the guys played with.
You had a kind of tense moment with Jordan. I think it was late third after his delay game. I guess, could you put in perspective what that was what that back and forth was? I'm just, I'm going to stay on Jordan. He's continuing to grow and he's getting better. I think the last 2 games he was fantastic in terms of, staying off the referees. And, he got the offensive foul and then held the ball as he talked to the ref, and that was a delay of game. So, I'm trying to get Jordan to the point where he understands every play counts and every moment counts. And so every once in a while I snap, and I snapped in that moment, and he looked at me like I was nuts. And but it's all part of it. I love Jordan and love the way he's playing, and he was incredible tonight. I wanted to kind of ask you about his overall game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously there were moments like that, but he still scored 32.
Yeah.
Just what you think overall.
I just think to play that way tonight without Steph and Clay and Wiggs and Draymond, with Okoro all over him, to give us that scoring, that force. He made so many plays out there. He just set the tone right away. I think he hit the first 9 points of the game with 3 threes, and he was great. So he's just getting better and better. And as I said, there's still so far to go, which is exciting. He's just got to take the next step and continue to do what he did the last 2 games, stay off the refs, embrace the fact that there's going to be some bad calls, and just move on to the next play. And I thought for the most part he did that tonight, other than that one moment.
Coach, we all know your road record are not so well this season, but you got 3 wins and 2 losses on the road so far. During these 5 road games, how do you sum this 5?
Great road trip. To win 3 out of 5 against good teams with some guys out, guys coming back into the lineup. And then on top of that, I think we had a lot of bonding on this trip, to go to the White House and celebrate a championship, meet the president and the vice president, and, really spend a lot of time together. It was a great week. I'm really hoping that this is kind of the boost that we've been looking for. And I think it's all set up for us. We're getting guys back. Guys are finding their rhythm and playing pretty well heading home. So it's time to go take care of business.
You guys are no strangers to hot shooting from beyond the arc. The step and play out there, usually different cast of characters, but to look up and see 82%.
Yeah.
3 at one point in the second quarter there. What's that say to the guys that were out there tonight?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of guys who can shoot, obviously, on this roster, but it's also just one of those nights. I mean, you play 82 games, you're only going to have a few of these. And we knew we were going to have one to win the game. And it was, everybody stepping up. We had so many guys making shots. It wasn't just Jordan. But Lamb, Ty, Jamichael, Dante, everybody was filling it up. And again, you get the occasional night like this, and this is what we needed in order to win the game.
Did Ty Jerome 3? I think it was 104, 100, something like that. And he hits, I think it was late clock fadeaway 3. I mean, was that kind of like the biggest?
I thought that was the shot of the game. I think it was a 4-point game at that point. It bumped it to 7, and we didn't have anything going in that possession. And Ty's amazing. I mean, I know he's a two-way player, but I mean, this guy, 22 points, 8 assists, 1 turnover. In 41 minutes, and he'll probably be inactive next game. It's like it makes no sense, but we have to. And I'm just speculating, but we're trying to keep his games down, and Lamb's games down in order to be able to get through, the end of the season. But this is why your 2-ways are so important. We nailed both 2-ways. Both of them are legit NBA players who have helped us win a lot of games.
Speaking of that, I mean, I think you might only have 12 or 13 games left on that game limit. I mean, are those conversations happening, or are you planning on during this next step having to sit them to stretch those few remaining games out?
We're just going Thelma and Louise right now. We're just speeding off the cliff. We're just trying to win games, and we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, we've got our eye on it, and we know what where we are and all of that. But we'll do what we can.
Yeah, and he mentioned Ty Jerome, who again is probably inactive on a night where Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Jordan Poole and Dante DiVincenzo are all healthy and available to play. But so it goes as far as the game's limit and getting to 50, and they're going to have to keep that 15th spot. I think for now. At least the idea of it potentially being Anthony Lamb. If they believe that he can be a playoff rotation player, then to me it's his spot to lose. The question, though, I think, and I've mentioned this a couple of times over the last week, is that does it turn into a situation where they have to also weigh his ability to make a contribution to the Warriors, versus who would be available from the outside? But I think, in essence, that's also kind of disrespectful to a guy like Anthony Lamb. If you look at him as somebody that's helped you, win a bunch of games this season, and then you go out from the outside and you replace above him essentially without giving him an opportunity, that would be unfortunate. I think it also is the kind of thing that potentially would prevent future 2-ways maybe from looking at wanting to join your program. But the Warriors, as Coach Kerr laid out, they have absolutely nailed the fact that, they nailed their 2-way guys, flat out. Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb are not perfect players, but they have been much needed contributors. And I know I've heard Bob Myers say this a lot. It's the fact that, with the Warriors having less and less money to be able to spend on their bench and the back half of the roster, being able to add capable two-way players is important. And the Warriors have maybe done better than anybody with as much as they've been able to get out of both of those two-way players in Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome. And they're both making their case. I think more probably Lamb at this point positionally, because he's somebody that, if you start looking at this roster right now, I mean, you can go through it. Steph and Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney, that's 5. Poole and DiVincenzo are 6 and 7. I think Kuminga right now projects as number 8. And who would be the 9th at this point? I think it's Anthony Lamb in all likelihood. I think, could Michael Green get in there and be a factor? I think possibly JaMychal Green could get in there and be a factor at some point. And look, Steve Kerr isn't, for the most part, he doesn't play 8 in a playoff type situation. He'll play 9 or even 10, even if the 9th and 10th guys don't play a lot. So I think there are opportunities for both to be able to play. But those are the kinds of decisions the Warriors are making. It's, just trading one of the young players for somebody that can be a more playable player than Lamb or Kuminga, or can help them a little bit in the regular season as a big that can maybe stretch the floor and shoot a little bit. That's the decision that they're going to have to make. So we'll see. But it's not an easy decision, but I do think, and I know that's been a big topic the last couple of days in the Bay. I do think, nobody's doubted whether the Warriors are good enough to level up in a playoff type situation and beat a really good team, win a playoff series, or against anybody. It's the question is, are they good enough to win multiple series? Are they good enough to win 4 series? Are they good enough to win 4 series if they don't have home court advantage for any of them with the team that they've had? Because they can win games and series. There's no doubt in my mind. It's, can you do it over and over and over and over with the toll that it's going to take? And we've seen the toll that how hard the Warriors have had to play. They've had to play harder this year than they've had to play, I think, in any other year to this point, 3 months into the season, just to be 23 and 23. And, they've got a lot of work to do over the next 2.5 months to make sure that preferably they avoid the play-in tournament. So they got a lot of hard work to do. And so how does that take a toll when you're playing playoff games? And I know there's going to be a day off in between, and for some of these games, there's more than one day off in between, especially early in series. Sometimes, depending upon when they start, you might get as many as 2 or 3 days off in between, and that, without a doubt, helps the Warriors recalibrate and get their energy about them and get their focus about them. We've seen Klay Thompson with extra rest be able to be a much more effective player, which has benefited the Warriors, I think, in January, where he's been a monster, as close to back. I don't think fully back, but as close to back as he's been, I think, at any point since he actually returned, going back to last January the 9th. So it's just something to keep an eye on here as we move toward the back half of the season and as the Warriors attempt to move forward on this homestand and separate from 500, because they still haven't been able to do it. You look at the conference standings tonight as we close the books on this one, and the Warriors now 23 and 23, which is a hell of a lot better than being 22 and 24. 22 and 24 would put the Warriors, at this point, it would have put the Warriors 12th in the West. And that's how fragile it is. If Utah goes on to lose tonight, which they're down in the latter stages of their game at home against Brooklyn, although it looks like they're making a little run right now. But if Utah loses, the Warriors would be right back in 6th, even at 500. And we'll see what happens. Oklahoma City's playing Sacramento. They've got a halftime lead in Sacramento. The Thunder right now would be a back-end play-in tournament team, and one of the hotter teams currently in the Western Conference, winners of 4 in a row. Actually, them and the Kings both 5 and 4 game winning streaks playing against each other in Sacramento. So we'll keep an update on that one as the night closes. All right, that'll do it for tonight. I want to thank everybody for calling in, for texting in, for watching on Twitch and YouTube. I'm John Dickinson, back with you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Whitey Gleason will join me, and we will be talking some Warriors back on Saturdays after being flipped to Sunday due to the 49er game last week. So we're back on Saturday, and we're looking forward to it. 10-1 tomorrow on 95.7 The Game. So lock in for that. The Warriors up next on Sunday, as they're going to be going at a busy day in the Bay on Sunday. The Warriors going to be going at it 4:30 for Warriors Live, as the Warriors and the Nets are going to be right here on 95.7 The Game. Alan Stiles is going to have the pre and the post game for you, as I will be covering the Niners on that day. But to join me tomorrow for Warriors This Week is Whitey Gleason. We'll be talking about this one. We'll be talking about the 3-2 trip. We'll be talking about the trade deadline. A lot to get into tomorrow here on 95.7 The Game. So Fox Sports Radio is coming up next. Keep it locked right here on 95.7 The Game.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-978-5309 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-978-5309. That's 800-978-5309. What do you have to lose? Call